I'm Kathianne Lewis, and I have the great honor of serving as the spiritual director for the Center for Spiritual Living. And I've been gone the last 4 weeks on various spiritual retreats, and I'm home. Yes, I'm so grateful. Yeah. I'm really glad to be here, and I previewed this service. It's really awesome, so I'm glad you're here. So what you might want to do is get on your smartphone and let people know that you're at the Center for Spiritual Living, and they can start getting the live streaming of that in about 20 minutes or less than that now, because we're redoing the order of service. So that's another thing I want to share with you. Please take note. We're redoing a few things. It's not huge changes, but there are some changes, and I'd love your feedback on it. And for all of you that are watching, hello, hello, hello. It's good to have you here. I've just found out that our beautiful, wonderful guest musician for the day actually watches us. So you can watch this later. And I can say, hello, Vic. Hi. It's wonderful. We have probably as many people watching now, because we do get to keep track, as many people watching at home as there are showing up here. So we try to do little things for you that do show up, and what we're going to do is be giving you, something that they can't get through the tube or the computer or the smartphone, and that is that we try to create, my intention is to create a consciousness of Spirit being so present that you have some sort of revealing of wholeness in your life. Because that's what consciousness can do, and that's what I want to have established here. So thank you for being here today. And the other thing that I want to share is that if you're here for one of the first few times, you might want to sign up to be part of our extended spiritual community. There's a connection card that looks like this. It's available probably in quite a few seat backs for some of the people here, but if it's not available in front of you, it's always available in the offering basket as it goes by later. So check that out. I encourage you to do that. So there's one other thing that I want to share with all of you. We put it on our Facebook page. So just to let you know, breaking news comes through on Facebook, and you might want to like us on Facebook, Center for Spiritual Living, that is. Last week, one of our dear congregants, Max, had a medical emergency during second service. We wanted to let you all know that he's doing well and is currently in the hospital recovering. In fact, actually, it was quite a miraculous recovery because people were amazed at how quickly he recovered. And so it's probably not only quick medical response, but also a lot of prayer. He was doused in prayer, So thank you all for your concern and your commitment. And I just want to let you know that I know that even though I wasn't here, anything like that can be disturbing, even though it doesn't affect you, closely or really personally. And that we want to be there when you're disturbed. We don't want to disturb you, but we're here for you. Because who hasn't been disturbed? I mean, it happens. Who's been disturbed more than once? It happens. And we want to be there for you when you get disturbed. And so there are prayer circles that are always available after the service. And it's a place to go and say, this is what's going on for me, because prayer is a beautiful way to not evaporate something, but to let you find the strength to walk through something and to deal with something and have it be resolved. There's a difference between evaporate and resolve. So I encourage you at all times to think about using the prayer circles by our wonderful prayer practitioners. Let yourself be lifted in that prayer, just as Max was, because he's doing really well, and people were, to say the least, surprised at how well he's doing right now. So those are all the things I want to share. Let's just take a deep breath. Isn't it a good day? Don't you love a good fall day? Isn't it a lovely thing? Let's relax. One of the things I read recently is that it's getting harder and harder to find silence on this planet. So even though I can hear cars outside and little bits of noise, there's a silence inside that's never disturbed. So I encourage you to just revel in an inner silence.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. And so right here and right now, I rest. And I trust that divine unfolding, that inspiration of the Most High God, breathing me, indwelling me, fully present and available in my heart of hearts, in my inner temple. And as I know this is the truth for me, I know this is the truth for each and every one of us, that we are indwelled and breathed by that life, by that light, by that presence, by that love, by that peace. God the good. Into thy will draw me this day, sweet Spirit. And I rest, and I breathe, and I am peace. And so it is.
As some of you know, I spent some time in Greece, and I like to do sacred travels. I like to go places where there is an ancient civilization that we can draw energy from. And definitely the islands of Greece have that. Well, Greece has that. The islands of Greece has that. Actually, more ancient than the Greek civilization by quite a bit. Saw some amazing things. I had no idea. There was an island called Delos, which was basically the banking capital of the known world about 4,000 years ago. They had a beautiful coastal area with ports, lots of trading shops, four-story houses, with an inner court, lots of rooms on the outside, running water, the thing that I like most, sewage system, toilets, bathtubs, all the known conveniences except for maybe electricity. But when you live in paradise and it's nice weather most of the time, who needs electricity, I guess? A beautiful place, gorgeous, very interesting. It's humbling. It's humbling when we think we're so advanced. And yet we get to see that there was advance and then fall and advance and fall and advance and fall. Keeps you humble. I'm humbled. It was great. What I like to do, though, when I take people on trips is that we come back with something more than just souvenirs and photos. So I want to come back enriched and empowered in some way. So I usually come up with a theme, something that we're going to be working on, so that as a collective group of people, we hold each other and kind of move forward as a group. Unfortunately, though, I picked as a theme the hero's journey. Did you know that the hero in most of those myths and stories had a lot of trouble? About a third of the way through, Reverend Sharon and I got together and said, we must change the theme of this trip. Because the hero, we had to have a theme of we've arrived and gotten what we needed, because the hero's journey was getting a little much. Honest, this is the true story. The first day in Athens, I lost everyone in my group. And first a big group disappeared, and then another group disappeared, and then I was with six. There were six of us, and I was keeping an eye on them. And they went into this museum, and I waited for a long time because I'd already seen it once, and I didn't want to go in, so I would keep waiting and waiting. And so finally I go looking for them, can't find them anywhere. And I think it's some stupid Greek TV show like Let's Punk a Tourist. I was like, I'm looking for what? Or it's, let's play a joke on the minister. I had no idea. We finally all got back together. Praise God, they're adults. They found their way back to the hotel. But that was just the beginning. And then we leave Athens to go to Crete, and we are on this huge ferry, huge. It makes our ferries look tiny, huge. And the waters are so rough, we are going like this. I could not walk straight. You're just shuffled from one end to the other. Yes, and people were doing that. And it was amazing. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is what Odysseus went through when he was trying to return home from Troy. Oh, and then the rooms got weird. And it was just, so anyway, we changed the theme. Themes are very powerful. Don't want to do that ever again. But this is what I want to share with you. In a way, we were living a myth, and a myth is something to be lived, but we have to pick our myth. So when I chose to pick the myth that we're already home and we've learned what we need to learn, that's different than what we were going through before. See, a myth is a story believed that shapes behavior. A story believed that shapes behavior. So watch the stories you tell yourself. And we're all telling ourselves stories. This is a quote from John F. Kennedy. He said, "The great enemy of truth is not very often the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic." It's so sneaky. Doesn't seem like we should question it. It's so part of culture. And yet a myth is told always in the beginning and even perpetuated to shape behavior. So I want to give you an illustration of behavior shaping and how myth applies to that. In fact, as soon as I wanted to talk about myth, everything started showing up. I love the way God orchestrates things. So out of all the information that I receive has to do with what I'm supposed to be sharing on a Sunday. So this is something that I received. And it is a TED Talk by Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. I'm not going to do the whole TED Talk, but I want to give you the essence because it has to do with myth and it has to do with Greece. And do you do this when you're thinking about something and somebody even mentions the word, you go, where? You listen up? Well, I listened up when I heard myth and Greece. So this is what I want to share with you. Elizabeth Gilbert is plagued by people who want to know if she's going to be bothered if her next book isn't as good as Eat, Pray, Love. She said that's all they want to talk about. What if your next book isn't as good? What if it's not as popular? What will you do then? It's like we're looking for problems. And she said, my book was a success. It was a fluke. There's lots of good books out there. It was a fluke. It was a successful fluke. I'm grateful, but it's a fluke. And she said, but we put so much pressure on artists. Anybody that produces something, we expect them to do it again. Think about actors. You did so well. What will you do now? A producer, you did so well. What will you do now? A director, you did so well. What will you do now? A book writer, an author, you did so well. A playwright, anybody. We think that they always have to exceed themselves. Think of the pressure. Then she brought up, think of the lives of artistic people in the last century and a half. The ones that committed suicide or committed kind of quasi-suicide by just drinking themselves to death. Think of the pressure that we put onto them, the craziness that goes on with them. And she said, I really wanted to look back in time and see when there was a time when people could just be creative and have excellent lives instead of having this pressure to continue to be creative. So she said, I had to go back all the way to Greece. I went, where? And in Greece, They believed, whether they were a sculptor, a painter, a playwright, or even a philosopher, because Aristotle said this about where he got his ideas. He said, I get my ideas from the daemon that lives with me. And a daemon was like a spirit. It was something that would inspire the artists and the philosophers. And if they did any good work, it was that daemon. So they never took on the responsibility themselves. If it was good, it was the daemon. If it was bad, it was the daemon. Isn't it great to have a scapegoat? Honestly, what we need in this culture is a better scapegoat. Because how many of you are blaming it on your ego? If it did, it's just my ego. That's just a scapegoat. Since we don't believe in the devil, what more do we have? We should have daemons. Anyway, when the Greek philosophy and religion was incorporated into Rome, the daemon became genius. There was a spirit of genius. And then as we went through the Reformation and the Enlightenment, people took on the genius, and it's my genius, and all of a sudden I'm responsible for everything that I do. And there's a huge weight in that. See, myth? The myth of something inspires you, and the myth of it's all up to me. Difficult, isn't it? That's myth. That's the power of myth. That's the power of a story believed in that shapes behavior. And we're all being shaped by behavior. Now let's go back to the hero's journey. Unfortunately, what I should have said up front is that the hero's journey need not be out there. It's always in here, because it really is. It's stories about heroes overcoming things so that it is actually a role model for us to overcome things. And most of the things we need to overcome are situations that are only overcome when we own our own power and our own ability, when we own our own genius. Our genius. We own the genius. It's not us, but we own that there's something greater than ourselves that can inspire us and work through us. So today I want to talk about myth. And hopefully inspire you. I hope I'm a genius at inspiring you to create a self-myth about overcoming obstacles. How many of you have had an obstacle? How many of you have an obstacle? That's your hero's journey. Your hero's journey is to walk through, overcome, be the conqueror of that obstacle. And if this isn't just Greek mythology, it's not just Roman mythology or storytelling, this shows up in all great religious literature. Religious literature is about us truly living a platitude that you may have heard, which is, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Well, that's a platitude until you prove it to yourself. It's just a nice thing to say until you prove it to yourself. And all of the religious literature is about proving it to yourself. So we have David, who overcame. David was a midget. Well, he wasn't small, but yes, he was. He wasn't smaller than the rest, but people were small then. And so he went up against a giant. The giant was probably 6 foot. Not a giant to us, but a giant to people that are just as tall. In fact, he was probably shorter than that, because it's said in the Bible that they couldn't even find armor to fit him. He was so small. So here's this tiny guy going up against this big guy. Amazing. It's a story of overcoming, about using his wits and his skill, and he already had it. There's a story of Jacob. Jacob had things to overcome. First of all, he'd lied, and his brother was big and vicious and hated him, was going to kill him. And then he had an uncle who outwitted him, and I can't say that in church. Stole from him. We'll use that one. Stole from him and was sneaky about things. And he had to overcome that. He had to overcome having no money, and he's supposed to go back to see his father. He had to overcome a lot of things, and he did. And the worst thing that he had to overcome was his own small-mindedness, his own character flaws, because Jacob had some character flaws. He was a liar. He was a cheat. And he knew it. He was conniving and he knew it, and he was a coward and he knew it. So when he was going to go back to face his father, which means he also had to face his brother, which was, did I tell he was big and hairy and mean and nasty and hated him and wanted to kill him and said, I'll kill you. He's going back to his homeland. He sends all the servants, children, and women first. Let me know how it goes. And yet he had to overcome all of that. And he did. And he conquered all of that, and he was given a new nature, a new name, Israel. He was lifted, not because he did anything outside, it's because he did something inside. Israel. There's also one of his sons, Joseph. Joseph had a lot of things to overcome. All of his brothers, his older brothers, hated him. So they put him in a pit and was laughing at him. Ha, ha, ha. And then they realized, oh my goodness, what's our father going to find out when he finds out that we put him in a pit and we're laughing at him? I know, we'll get rid of him. Let's sell him into slavery into Egypt. That's a big thing to overcome. It's still overcoming. And he didn't overcome by being Hercules. He overcame through the skills that were within him. We have Paul, who started out as Saul, who had to overcome, we don't know what, but he keeps talking about it in his own words, that there's something that plagues him that he has to overcome. If you get into a class with me, I'll tell you what that is, right? It's not for church. There's the Greek stories of Jason and the Argonauts and Odysseus, back to the hero's journey. Odysseus took 10 years to return home from Troy, and he wondered why his wife was worried. All of this is going on, and all of them overcome, not so much from brute strength, but by activating and cultivating what's within them, because what is within them is greater than what's outside of them. That's actually a quote by Emerson. What's behind us and what is in front of us is nothing compared to what is inside of us, and that's what they found out. That's the hero's journey. We're all on a hero's journey. And perhaps what our obstacles are is the universe's way of saying, wake up and call this forth. Wake up and be who you are. Wake up and express yourself. We all have myths. I listened to the myth that was prevalent in Greece, and the myth and prevalent of Greece is we don't know when it will ever get better. They are at 30% unemployment. And that's when everything is in season. And everything in Greece, as we were leaving, because we were at the end of the season, everything was closing up. They close up. The islands close up. November, December, January, February, and March. What do? They hope they make it to the next season. Lots of stuff is going on. There's myths. But before I continue on and I hopefully get us to activate that which is inside of us that is greater than what's outside of us, I'd like you to just take a deep breath. You know, I am so grateful that we all have an inner tutor. We have the greatest tutor in the world. And a tutor helps us understand something, and this tutor is known by many names, but let's just call it for today the Holy Spirit. And it is the inner teacher that teaches us what we need to know. So let that tutor, that teacher, reveal to you what myth you might be living. What's your myth? It might be a great myth. If so, let's keep it. But if you notice that you're living a myth that has obstacles in it that perpetuate the myth of lack or limitation or restriction, look at the myth and ask yourself if you're willing to be the hero in your own story. And return home to your heart triumphant. So see the myth, see the obstacles. Now bless it all. And let's find our strength and our power. Just as David had the talent that he needed to overcome the giant, and just as Jacob had what he needed to get a new name, a new nature, and Joseph had what it took for him to rise out of slavery into being the second in command to Pharaoh, just as Paul had what it took for him to continually turn to God and be lifted up, and Odysseus had what it took for him to leave all the trials and tribulations in the Aegean Sea, so do we have what we need to make this sacred soul journey, because this is a soul journey. The hero's journey is always about the soul, not the small. I saw that written here. It's about the soul. And often we, from our small me self, are stressed out, but the soul waits for the conscious recognition of its own power. It's always been there, but we need to consciously recognize it. We don't change anything, but we need to consciously recognize that we are as God created us in the love and in the light and in the glory, and that we can, therefore, draw forth from within our own soul that which is needed in any given situation. By the way, Odysseus, who made that wonderful 10-year travel from Troy back home, he was known for his brilliance, his guile, and his versatility. And I looked up guile because I didn't think it was a good word, but really it just means artfulness and wiliness and cunning. It means that you know how to do things. So this brilliant intelligence inside of us is also brilliant and versatile and artful, and we need to know how to call it forth for our good and the benefit of others, because we can. So what we did in Greece, and I want to do now, is we talked about the powers that are given us. Now, this is not a religious science teaching. It's not an Ernest Holmes teaching. This comes from Emma Curtis Hopkins, given to Charles Fillmore. It's a unity teaching, and really written gloriously about in a book by Catherine Ponder. It is a great book. And I remember, did you used to take classes with Virginia Seville? No? Sort of? Where my teacher in ministerial school made us study this. I mean, I'm going to send you out. You better have these things awakened within you. So I was really into studying this stuff. And it was fun to go back to it, because I noticed that there were always times on our hero's journey as we were going along that we needed to call for certain powers. They're powers. They're already there. A power is something that can be potential, and then it needs to be activated. So I'm going to talk to you about some powers that are inside of you. And it's not just in your head, it's in your whole body. Your whole body is alive. And you can call forth these powers and express them. They might need it at different times. But the first one we're going to start with is faith, because it's hard to activate anything else without faith. How many of you know you would like a little more faith? You have all you need. It's just not activated. That, we can't have any more faith. Jesus said you must have faith in God, you must have the faith of God. How do you have the faith of God unless you already have the faith of God? But where would you get it? Hear faith, faithy. Woo, 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 woo. Come on. Come on. Really, that would be like a crazy myth. They went off looking for faith, looked around everything, opened up everything. No faith. Really, it's a crazy, crazy myth that we can somehow get faith. There's a new myth. You have it. Live that. It's actually a power center in your body, and according to Charles Fillmore, it's touch your head, right under your crown chakra. Look at this. Only in our church would everybody know where their crown chakra is. You all went for it. Nobody went. See, that's why we're all hanging out together. A bunch of woo-woos. Anyway. All right, so you're touching your crown chakra. Now go straight down. Straight down. Imagine there's a light going straight down from your crown chakra to right about here in your head, right about there, and in the very middle of your skull, straight down from your crown chakra, is the pituitary gland, and it is the center, the active center for faith. And you can call it forward. You can say, I now, and you imagine that there's a light there, a bright light. And you say, I am now activating my faith, the faith that was given to you in the beginning. God didn't leave you here and say, oh, some people will have faith and some people won't. No, everybody's got it, but you've got to call it forth. I call forth faith. So you call that forth. So you see the light and you say, I am now activating my faith. I have faith in God. I have the faith of God. Let's say that together. I have faith in God. I have the faith of God. How many of you feel a little twingy about that? I don't know. Well, you're stealing God's faith. No, I'm just kidding. You're not. But I just needed to say it because somebody might be thinking it. I know this works, and I'll tell you why, because I believe everything that Emma Curtis Hopkins says, sort of, kind of. And one of the things she says is that people who are low on hope have issues with their left side. I don't know why that works, but she also says that people that need more faith have issues with their right side. I always have issues with my right side. I have a toe that sometimes doesn't work. I blame it on Egypt. I have a knee that sometimes doesn't work. I have a hip that doesn't work. So I have a toe, a knee, a shoulder, goes to hand falls asleep. Everything's on the right side. On the right side. But that was happening in Greece, and I said, I call forth faith. I call forth faith, and the whole right side clears up. Weird. Now, it's only because I believe it, but it's better than ibuprofen? Really? So if you have an issue on your left side, try, I am filled with the hope of God. I hope for the best for myself and the world. There's nothing that I cannot hope for. Left side, I have faith in God, I have faith in God, I have the faith of God. See how it works. This is an experiment. You know, we used to be called religious science. People hated that word. Religious science, what's that all about? It means proving your religion to yourself. Do not believe me. If you believe me, stop it. But what I do encourage you to do is try stuff out and see if it's true. If it's true, come back. If it's not, find some other place that you can prove to yourself. Because we are over having secondhand gods. It's just crazy. Believe in something because somebody said it. No, prove it to yourself and ask yourself, what would the world be like if this were really true? One of the reasons why I left my former religion in my teens is because if God really created a hell, there is no hope for too many people, and I could not believe that God would create people to set them up for failure. So see, you just blow it up and blow this thing up. Why would God say have faith, the faith of God? Why would that be in a scripture and you couldn't have it? So prove it to yourself. A little hope, a little faith, a little hope faith. The hopeful faith. Yeah. I wish I would do this first service and get over it instead of doing it while we're being filmed, but anyway. So then first you call forth faith, and then I'm going to give you some ones that I didn't give to first service. Because there are 12, and we got to talk about 5, and there's 2 more that are incredibly important. I mean, a bunch more they're all important, but let's talk about 2 more. Another one is will. And will is focused right here. How many of you, when you want to make something happen, you get really cringy right here? Yeah? How many of you cringe? Right here, right between your eyes. Right between your eyes is will. When you want to make something happen, how many of you get headaches? Right there. You're willing things. Try as you might, you cannot move the universe through your will. There's a purpose for will. Will is the decider and the focuser of your attention. It doesn't make something happen. It focuses your attention. So you will to follow another area, which is your wisdom, which is focused here. Wisdom, your solar plexus. Think of it. Solomon was known for his wisdom and good judgment. Soul man. It's all linked together. This is old wisdom, tied in over and over and over again. So wisdom allows you to know what is the right thing to do, and then you've got to will to do it. How many of you know the right thing to do and you go off someplace else? Sort of like me. I know that gluten is not good for me, but they had the best spaghetti I've ever eaten in Greece. And so my gut feeling, my wisdom would say, let's leave the gluten alone. And my will would say, oh, but we're going home soon. How many of you do that? It's good to tame the will, that your will is always God's will, and your will is for your good, not necessarily your comfort. I will to will God's will. Right up above will, right here, is understanding. And you can call forth understanding. How many of you want to understand? It's a good thing to want to understand, especially yourself, especially what's going on, the universal laws. It's good to understand. I watch people when I teach class, they get all crunchy right here. I'm really crunchy. They don't want to do, they want to understand. And I'll go along sometimes and I'll see somebody really crunchy in their forehead and I'll just rub their forehead and they go, ah. It's like a dog, tickling them. Because this hurts when we want to understand. It almost itches. Right, I love it. Right. It's because, but we don't understand that understanding only comes from experience. So let your wisdom direct you. Will to follow your wisdom, and you will understand. Another one that we talked about, this is very powerful, is power center. You actually have a power center of power. You have power, but it's the power to create. The power to create is in your throat. One of the things I shared with the group is that when I was growing up, I was told to never speak up for myself. In fact, the way my family phrased it was, don't backtalk. So the only thing that I could do was agree with whatever. No opinions. No backtalk. Tonsillitis most of the time. Could never, we didn't have insurance or money to get my tonsils out, so they were just infected most of the time. I had sore throats for most of my adult life, my young life, until I moved out of the house. And then the tonsillitis cleared up. Never had another bout of it because I was then free to talk. When you get a sore throat, ask yourself, what am I afraid to say? And what am I afraid to claim for myself? Because this is a power center. Use your words with impeccable grace, or the words will backfire. It's all in the throat. The last one that I want to share, as I shared first service too, is order. I'm directed to work more on order. I actually get out of order fairly quickly, and I'm glad that I went on this trip. This trip was totally for me, so I could wake up to, I need to claim order for myself again. And order is balance, and it is harmony, and it is beauty. So your body needs to be in balance. It balances your relationships need to be harmonious. It's an order thing. It's a power. You can actually call it forth. It's right behind your navel, in about the middle of your body, behind your navel. And you'll notice that when you're in balance, you just flow well. When order is working, you can find things. I should have known I was out of order just by opening a drawer. When we were on that ferry, the one that was going like this, rocking and rolling, I knew, I was so grateful that we were working on the 12 powers because I knew that order would help. So I kept my attention right here on this power of order. And even though I had just begun to get seasick, which is very hard for me, everything went away. Order, balance, harmony. We have it. Let's play with it. So I'm going to invite Jal up. Let's take a deep breath. Remember I spoke about an inner tutor? There's something that's been around forever and known by so many different names. It was Isis, and then Sophia, and then the Holy Spirit. There's always been something, Saraswati. There's always been something that was a teacher to humankind. But it's a personal teacher. So I know that that teacher still exists. There's still something here to inspire us with our own answers. So let that inner teacher reveal to you once again your hero's journey, your myth. And let it also reveal to you how you can overcome your obstacle. The obstacle is not there as an enemy. It is there to call you out. To call you out as the beautiful, wonderful, divine being that you are. It is there to say, wake up and stand up and rise up and be what you were created to be. For you and God are one. It's the same thing. And we can pretend it's different, but that too is a myth. Let's have the myth of we can face, embrace, and be blessed by any challenge and any obstacle. We become greater because of it, because nothing can diminish us. Let's take that on. Let the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, reveal to you your inner strengths, your inner gifts, your inner powers. Because you are as God created you. In the love and in the light and in the glory. And glory means everything. And God is glorified when you discover yourself in the love and in the light and in the glory. And so I now speak my word of blessing for each and every person in this room, that inner teacher continues to instruct us of our journey and our patterns, instructs us of our strengths, instructs us of our own unique skills, our talents, our gifts to others. I give thanks that we are collectively and individually rising up and shining forth. And nothing can keep us from that. Thank you, sweet Spirit, for this opportunity to come together in the name of the one that we live. Thank you, sweet Spirit, that we are knowing our oneness together. We're knowing our oneness with God and all living life. Thank you, sweet Spirit, that we are claiming our power for good and our power to bless. And by so doing, we remind others they can do the same. All is good. And so it is. And then something weird happened while I was gone for 4 weeks. The giving went way, 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 way down. Like way down. Like can't afford to leave again, which means that people give, maybe perhaps I'm here, and part of me, my ego, is very flattered, and the part of me that wants the best for this spiritual community is like ready to, no, you can't do this. It can't be about me. If it is about me, then I need to leave. Because this is about the message, and the message is given by different people in different ways, but it's always the same message. And sometimes that different way is just exactly what somebody needed to hear. So thank you very much for, no. Thank you for giving when I'm here, and this really needs to change. Because this community goes on, and our staff is still paid, and the light bill still shows up, and the bank thinks we need to pay a mortgage, whether I'm here or not. So thank you for listening. Let's bless our gift. Triple it. Only family can tease and laugh like that. At least the tripling was a tease. The other was serious because we are family and we get to talk about stuff. There's nothing outside of the realm of God. There's nothing outside of the realm of appropriateness when we speak from the heart. And so I ask that you give from the heart, blessing this community and everyone who shows up. And for those that are watching online, I encourage you to push the donate button, because I am so grateful that we have provided ways for people to stay in their jammies and be a part of this service. And it will continue, but we still need your support. And so it is.
I am a dreamer, a true believer.